HRT with women. I think an incredible mistake was made 25 years ago, and the amount of cognitive dissonance that is brewing and that has led to an inability for people to acknowledge those mistakes and to undo them has been glacial at its pace.
You're talking about hormone replacement therapy for perimenopausal and menopausal women.
That's correct.
Where tens and tens of millions of women every year are not getting the treatment that they need.
That's right.
I mean, how would you describe that?
You know, it's hard to not sound hyperbolic when you talk about it, but if you've watched your mother and your mother-in-law and many of your patients go through this, being a part of what I call the lost generation of women, the women that entered menopause at the turn of the century, it's very hard not to be distraught, and it's very hard not to argue that this is the greatest single failure of the modern medical system.
The inability to treat women with hormone replacement therapy.
Look, you want to take the most charitable approach to interpreting the actions of others. I try to steel man as opposed to straw man cases. So they designed a trial in the 90s to test a hypothesis, but they really, really screwed up the interpretation. And even on the subsequent analyses, in other words, when you follow these women and repeated the analysis, estrogen given to women in this setting was not causing breast cancer, and yet the narrative just didn't change. We're actually seeing right now that the FDA is finally, after 2 decades, going to remove a black box warning to that effect.
And how important is hormone replacement therapy, specifically for women, going to extend not only lifespan, but health span?
I think that's the part that just gets missed, and I think that's another great example of where Medicine 2.0 runs amok. I've had many debates with opponents of HRT, and they will go off in the weeds about, well, even if you concede that the benefits of HRT in terms of diabetes and colon cancer and heart disease, they're not that big. And besides, you really have to be worried about this risk of breast cancer, et cetera, et cetera. But when you turn your attention to bone density, when you turn your attention to vasomotor symptoms, when you turn your attention to sexual side effects, they sort of say, well, again, that doesn't show up on lifespan, so we're not really going to pay attention to those metrics. Although many of those do, right? For example, lower bone density dramatically factors into lifespan.